All righty, welcome to another episode of Football Clowns Anonymous. This is your more handsome host, Kurtis speaking. Ren has graciously passed over the host duties today, so he is now co-host Ren Smith, tuning in live from Longmont, Colorado. How you doing, Ren?
Good try, Frederick, but basically the same thing.
Yeah, Frederick Longmont. They're potato, tomato.
Yeah, it's funny when you tell people who live in Colorado, I live in Frederick, they're like, where? Even if they're from Denver, like 30 miles away, they're like, where's that? So
exactly,
Longmont's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
I'm doing well. I'm fresh off of my first fantasy draft of the season, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. I've got I guess I should say is my second fantasy draft because I had a dynasty redraft. That's a little bit different story, but yeah. So feeling kind of fresh off of that, and I think that's kind of what we want to talk about. You haven't had a draft yet, have you?
No. I've got the big money league coming up on Tuesday, I believe, and then our league is on Wednesday. So yeah, I mean that inspired the topic of conversation for today's podcast. We wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit of fantasy. I mean, we talk about football, trying to pretend we know how to bet on during our 9 to 5, but when we go home, it's all about fantasy, and 'tis the season. So we thought we'd talk a little fantasy strategy, players we like, don't like, and just kind of how we're feeling about this year's situation.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's an exciting time of the year, and I think it's an overlooked thing because I feel like draft day sometimes is the best day of the year, or at least it feels kind of like the best day of the year. And some years it's really the day you feel the best about your team that you'll feel all year.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
sad because then you find out where you screwed up. Like I had that guy as a late round, sleeper, and he's had one catch through 2 weeks or something like that.
I'm going to tell you, man, after the draft is done for just about all my leagues, I just go and stare at that team for a little bit. I caress the screen a couple times. I talk nice to it. I'm like, oh, you and me, we're going to do great things together this year.
This is funny. I should share this. So we Kurtis and I have been in the same league for, this will be the 4th year, I think, or maybe 5th year. Even.
So it's getting up there. We're getting.
I feel like and I want to say the last 2 years, or maybe it was the first 2 years. I don't remember. Anyway, but Kurtis, we left the draft, and Kurtis is doing that exact thing with his team. He's so excited about it. He got all the guys he wanted, and he's looking at my team like, wow, you have no idea what you're doing. And I have placed in the top 3 both years. And the first year, Kurtis started out 0-9, 0-10 maybe, with a great team.
It was easily the worst fantasy season I've ever had, and it's really not even close. And it's disgusting because I run the league, and I did not have fun that year. Let's just put it that way. That was a tough one.
The league didn't let you live. I mean, we just roasted you 3 ways to Sunday. I don't remember if it was injuries, if it was bad calls, but it was hilarious watching you flounder.
Yeah, and last year, I mean, it was shaping up to be another one. I had literally half my team get injured within the first 4 weeks, and I was like, well, shit. But I was actually most proud of that performance. I clawed and scraped my way back to a championship visit. I lost to a dude who had an awful draft, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
The dude that left like $20 of auction budget just sitting
disgusting. Didn't buy a player until halfway. Disgusting.
It's just proof that you can't you can't win on draft day, no matter how. You can't even really lose on draft day either.
Apparently not. I really thought he lost his whole season with that draft, and lo and behold, and I think he was the top scorer throughout the league, which it was pretty wild to watch.
It was hard to witness.
It was. But with that, I mean, we've got a lot of lessons learned from last year. We've been hitting the books. We've been listening to the podcast. We've been reading the blog posts. We've been hitting our mock drafts. We've been doing all the draft prep. We're ready. We're ready for these upcoming drafts. And I'm curious, Ron, what draft strategies are you thinking? I mean, I personally, I'm kind of leaning to I think a hero RB build is probably what makes the most sense. So in both of the drafts that I've got coming up, so in the one that we share, we do a 2 running back, 3 receiver, quarterback, tight end, flex, no kicker. So I mean, conventional wisdom would be you gotta hammer wide receiver early and often. I like the hero running back strategy though. I mean, with Christian McCaffrey, Brees Hall, or Bijan, if you could get one of those as your RB1, punt the position and load up on receiver, I think that's going to be a tough build to contend with.
I really like that build this year, especially because I feel like the draft after the first couple of running backs, the running back room really drops off really quickly. And I mean,
a lot of question marks.
Well, there's still a lot of great running backs there, but there's question marks, and they're all kind of, I would say running back 5 through 10 are kind of like the same thing. So why would you reach for one of those necessarily early on? But I like that. I mean, and I just did a snake draft yesterday. So if I don't get one of those top few picks, I don't get that hero RB, in my opinion. So then I'm probably loading up on wide receivers from the get-go, and I'm probably playing closer to the 0 RB, even though I personally am not a fan of that. In general, I think this year is a year where I might be more okay with it because there isn't just doesn't seem like there's a great depth of that hero guy. And there seem to be a lot of the sort of upper echelon of wide receivers goes a little bit farther than that. So I like the way that you put that, but we also share, and the two drafts you're talking about are auction drafts, which have that advantage that if you really want a guy, and I mean, you really, really want a guy, you can get that guy. You might screw yourself over for the rest of the draft, but if you want McCaffrey, you can spend 75% of your budget on him and you'll get him. But
I mean, in spending that 75%, you get 2 players. Christian McCaffrey is a super cheat code. When healthy, it's a 2-for-1 is basically what you're paying for. And that's a good call out with the auction drafts. We do auction drafts, but I mean, I think the philosophies or the thinking around building your team can be transferable between auction or snake draft. Obviously with snake, you have less control over who you can pick up, but I mean, you then switch to, tier-based thinking in terms of your positions, and you just go for best available based on your tiering and how you kind of see the board laying out in front of you. So I think the ideas are pretty much the same regardless of draft type.
Yeah, I just think it's a little harder to get one of those top guys in a snake draft. I mean, to end up with the 9th pick or something like that. I feel lucky that I got the 2nd pick. Kind of. I mean, I wish it was number 1 because I would have taken CMC. So I had a little bit of a debate in my head, and you'll recall I did text you just for like I'm here with Bijan Mustard and Brees Lightning at my feet, basically. And I'm like, if I pick the wrong guy, and I mean, an injury could happen, and I could pick the right guy, and it could still be the wrong guy that you don't know. But if I pick the wrong guy, I'm in deep trouble already in this league because I don't pick again for another 18 picks. But I did end up, I was kind of thinking I'd go the hero RB strategy once I got Brees Lightning. But again, I should not use nicknames so much. But again, everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but but when it came down to me back at 19, Kyron Williams was still sitting there, and I figured that's at that time felt to me like the best available player still at that time. So I'm loading up.
Yeah. So I was just having a conversation with my buddy Aaron, and we were talking about what we mentioned up top, that in these wide receiver heavy leagues, you should be hammering wide receiver early and often. But we've seen just time and time again, the teams that have those wide receiver heavy teams, they do good, but I don't recall a team that has won a championship with that type of build. And it always seems to be that team that's got those 2-star running backs that take it all the way. I mean, if they stay healthy, and obviously it's a little bit more of a risk there, but I mean, the reward is much higher, I think, with that stable of running backs who's, if you hit right, that's a guaranteed 15 points with upside every week from each spot. And I don't think you could say the same with your top tier receivers who might have a 3 for 30 type of day just because, T Higgins went off in the case of Jamar Chase or something like that. So I think statistically speaking, and I don't have any numbers to back this up, it's kind of a feeling. I think wide receiver is the way to go, but that running back heavy build, that I kind of dig it, man. I kind of dig it.
I think it works out. You know, and it is hard, like you point out, with the wide receivers, because even on a good a bad day for one of those high floor running backs, a bad day is still pretty good overall for filling that position, or for filling those points in where you need them. But a bad day for a wide receiver, just because of, again, game flow, or they draw the number one corner in the league or something like that, and you know they're getting 2 catches for 27 yards or something like that. You know, that's a lot more possible for, whereas, you know, one of those bell cow running backs, your guy like Christian McCaffrey or your guy like Breece Hall, these guys, you know, game flow wise, the team's going in and saying, this guy's going to get 25 touches this game. And he almost always will, you know, barring an injury. He's always going to get those. Whereas a wide receiver, they can try to bake him into as much as possible the game plan, but that doesn't guarantee that he's going to get that same level of production. So it's a lot more volatile. But if you've got guys that can be in the wide receiver room, if you've got guys that can be elite in any one week, you can still end up with a huge week. You know, you can get 80 points from, or depends on what your scoring is, but, you know, 60 or 70 points from 3 receivers, you know, just because all the stars align for you too. And then in that week, you don't need running backs. It's just, I think it's safer overall to have a higher floor. And overall, I think an elite running back tends to have a higher floor than an elite wide receiver in any given week.
Sure. I agree myself. That I think that just kind of fits my personal philosophy on team building. It's been working out for me okay the past couple seasons, but you know, I think we would be I think it's fair to touch on, you touched on the 0 running back strategy though, you know, loading up at receiver, have a couple of running backs, and you know, that strategy just, I feel like every year it kind of sort of has legs, but you know, there's some interesting late round targets that you could try and build that team around. Like, you know, if you took I guess it depends on how far you feel like kicking running back down the road, if you will. You know, you could get probably like a James Conner pretty late or pretty cheap. That would be a pretty solid RB1, and you know, throw a dart at like Jerome Ford or Zeke or Deuce Vaughn, or, you know, one of those, Chuba Hubbard, maybe, you know, he's probably going to be a starter. You know, in the auction drafts, you could probably get him for a few dollars, maybe, you know, 2 or 1 if you're lucky. And that's probably 10 to 15 points from both of those spots every week. And then you've got, you know, like you mentioned, the volatile nature of those 3 receivers, but if they hit, and if they're the wide receiver 1 for their team, they're probably going to hit more than not.
Volatile can be good and bad. Just to be clear on what I meant, you know, you can get that elite production. You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown can, you know, any week he can go off for 35 points.
Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to have a hell of a year. I like him this year. You know, you kind of hinted at, I was going to save this for you know, players we're high on later, but bro, I can't contain it, bro. You mentioned the turmoil with Justin Jefferson, your boy, with the QB situation. Jamar Chase is, I don't know what he's doing right now. I don't think he's been practicing because of his contract thing. CeeDee Lamb just got paid. I mean, he's going to be a dog, but you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he was like the wide receiver 3 or 4 last year, and he's not necessarily being talked like he was, talked about like he was. I think there's a little bit of value there as a you know, sneaky pick to be a wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 1 this year.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's listed as wide receiver 3 behind Tyreek and CeeDee Lamb, and that's, you know, really? CeeDee Lamb got paid, and you know, those guys are elite as well. But yeah, I like his prospect for being that wide receiver 1, especially in that, you know, it's crazy to think that we have expectations for the Lions this year, just in general. I mean, they have been so bad for so long, and you know, they had expectations last year, but now I feel like there's real expectations. You know, they won the division.
It's an offense that you look at and you're like, nah, I need at least one piece from that offense on my fantasy team.
I think so.
I can't leave the draft without it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, and you've even got with the running back situation, you know, we're talking about these later round options. You know, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to go earlier in running in drafts than David Montgomery is, but that's not to say that David Montgomery couldn't be a late round sneaky pick, because again, in any one week, he could emerge as an elite running back in the elite offense. I mean, I like him less than Jahmyr Gibbs, overall. But, if you're going to wait and take, 3 stud wide receivers right away or something like that, the value you get there, at least the potential that you get there is still, something worth considering, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think that, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say something. I was going to kind of transition or make a move towards tight end by bringing up Sam Laporta as well, and how he is after 1 year has emerged as the number 2. I think the number 2 tight end in drafts, at least in terms of the preseason rankings. Obviously, we'll see how it ends up turning out. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up as tight end 1 this year either, considering how that offense should look, and just what they looked like last year and what he looked like last year.
Right. So I'm looking on Fantasy Pros, and they have him at 1 actually. So they have him and then Kelsey at 2, which, I mean, I don't know how shocked we should be. I mean, Kelsey, what is 35 now?
Yeah, I think he's 35. Yeah. So actually, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that ranking, actually.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a surprise that they're gonna, kind of keep him on ice throughout the season and save him for when it matters most down the stretch. Yeah, I mean, I would assume anyway. I mean, that seemed to be the philosophy they had last year when they were game planning throughout the season. So, and Laporta's a young man, Jared Goff out here doing big things. Lions have a lot of indoor games, which Jared Goff shines in indoor games. It's kind of a weird fun fact about him. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. And I mean, while we're talking about quarterbacks, I mean, let's you want to run through what we're feeling at the different positions?
Well, sure.
Start up top.
I kind of wanted to move. I kind of wanted to go to. I mentioned tight end, but I kind of wanted to go to quarterback or try to slip that question in for you next, because we're talking about these sort of running back strategies between a hero running back or between a zero running back, or just between best player available, whatever it is, just going to the draft kind of ready to be flexible. But I'm curious what you think about the quarterback. Not quarterback play, but the quarterback strategy here, because I'm going to say that, every year pretty much for myself, my strategy is to wait on quarterback. I can't pass up the early value that you get from those flex positions with running back and wide receiver. Like you can't, I really don't want to be the first guy to take a quarterback off the board, even as good as a guy like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. These are the first 2 off the board, at least for ESPN rankings. For as good as they are, I can't justify taking them in round 3 or round 4. Again, the snake draft, but paying, or in an auction draft, paying what you would have to pay to get those guys when there is just such a great crop of quarterbacks throughout the league. I feel like throughout most of the rest of the draft. At that point, there's guys that are I just had a 10-team snake draft. There's guys like, I don't even think Aaron Rodgers got picked. Which, granted, this is a 10-team league. Right. But for us to be asking that question, and I can't wait on this. We're talking about sleepers, things like that. I can't wait on this. Tua is like quarterback 20 or something like that in fantasy. It's like, what are we doing here, folks? Like, Jaden Daniels is rated higher than him, and and I'm thinking to myself, like, why? I just don't get it. So
a few thoughts. So in both of the leagues that I've got coming, so in our shared league, the passing touchdown is 6 points instead of 4, which definitely changes the calculus a little bit there.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there.
So that would be my point A. I mean, its standard is still 4. I don't know if we should talk about that or just kind of cheat towards our own leagues because selfish intent. I kind of want to talk 6 points. So I mean,
you can talk 6 points.
I think we might. Yeah,
that's fine. The one I drafted for yesterday was a 4-point league, so it changed my how I thought about that.
Absolutely.
Go on.
Yeah. So let's talk 6 point. I mean, so it bumps up the value of the quarterback for sure. I think the advantage that you get with paying for the Jalen or the Josh is, and you could probably throw Patrick in there. I know he had a rough back half of the season last year, but he's still Patrick Mahomes. Let's not get carried away. The floor that they offer is pretty significant. When you wait on quarterback, if you whiff, then you're just playing the streaming game. And I used to be in that camp for sure. One of the big reasons I changed is, I'm an Eagles fan and Jalen Hurts is that guy. It's kind of hard not to put a little bit of emotion in there. And then in my big money league, I get to have him as a keeper. So it's kind of a no brainer for me. I gotta do it. But yeah, I mean, I used to punt on quarterback, but if you end up streaming quarterback, I also stream defense, and I really do not like having to stream both of those positions at the same time. In both of these leagues we play where you have a fab budget, so you have to spend on your waiver wire pickups. If you find yourself strapped needing those positions every week, and there's maybe one or two other guys trying to do that same thing, that's a lot of money. That money adds up quite a bit. So I mean, reducing one position that you need to stream from, I think, is pretty advantageous in terms of where you have to or can allocate your fab budget. And
I would
yeah, go
push
ahead.
back on the need. I would push back on the need to, and maybe you have a different philosophy on this, and maybe I guess it depends on the league and the other players in there. But I would push back on your need to spend fab on defenses. I get quarterbacks and having the best quarterback, but hey,
spending fab on the Cleveland Browns defense last year, spending just a few extra dollars to pick them up, but it saved me so much money because I got to stream them for 50% of the season, or I got to use them for 50% of the season. Whereas
that's not streaming at that point. That's I want the Browns defense for my team because they're the best defense in the league.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I didn't pay up for that, I think if I would have had to pick up a new defense for the entire entire season, that's $17 right there. That's a backup running back that I could have picked up, or a receiver. I don't know.
You can get a defense for zero fab. I mean, someone else might outbid you for them, but you can bid $0, just to be clear. And I would, if you find out the Cleveland Browns is the best defense in the league, you spend the money on them, and that's not a stream. That is this is my defense for the rest of the year. So that's different to me. That's
okay.
Different.
I mean, that's a fair rebuttal. I will. That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, but I see your point about if you are truly streaming, and I tend to stream defenses, that it is frustrating to have to stream multiple positions, as far as also from an effort standpoint too. I was actually lucky to get, and this is just an anecdote, but I was lucky to get the Bengals defense with the second to last pick in the draft. Granted, it was only 10 teams. I picked up the Bengals defense, not because I love the Bengals defense. They host the Patriots in week 1.
Yeah.
The Patriots are going to score under 10.5 points in that game. Guaranteed. It doesn't matter who. They could put a high school defense on the field for the Bengals.
Yeah.
And the Patriots I don't know. They're going to be garbage. You heard me on the air say they're going to be garbage. So I'm looking forward to that. But I will be streaming again because the Bengals have to play teams like the Ravens twice, for example.
Yeah.
So, I understand that as it's a point of frustration as well. But
they have KC week 2, so you're dropping them for that.
I am already dropping them right away. I didn't even know. I didn't even bother to look. But that's unfortunate. No, I cut you off from your quarterback discussion, but I see where you're coming from on, especially when you have 6 points for a passing touchdown. I totally see where you're coming from on a quarterback to get with spend the extra money to get that top dog type of quarterback. I just think I look later in the draft and I see guys like Aaron Rodgers, and I see guys like Tua, and I see Matthew Stafford is like quarterback 25 in fantasy
right.
rankings.
And
so there's a there too.
Yeah, I mean that was part B of my thinking or thoughts. Was the reason that they fall so low is because the rushing ability that Jaden Daniels offers, or I don't know if this is black. I would say at one point, maybe before all the picks that he was throwing, Daniel Jones might have been thought of before Aaron Rodgers as a fantasy quarterback, because the potential for him to take off and get you extra 10, 12 yards on the ground 3 or 4 times a game, that's an extra touchdown. And that's just going to trump the non-rushing quarterbacks. It just raises the floor that those rushing quarterbacks have, and that's why Tua has fallen. And I guess there are injury concerns. I don't know about that, but other than that, I mean, I do agree. Tua in the auction drafts, you're probably getting them for $1. Maybe you have to spend a couple. I mean, it's crazy. Dak is kind of the same way. You could probably think of him the same way. I also, if I wasn't keeping Jalen, I would probably be targeting like a Kyler Murray or an Anthony Richardson late. Again, just the rushing ability. People forgot Kyler was really that guy before he got injured. I don't see any reason why that changes. If the way people talking about Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, who's throwing them the ball? Like, what are we talking about right now? So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to argue against you that there is not value late, because I do agree it's pretty deep this year.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm actually kind of surprised, and we have a dedicated time maybe to talk about, or we'll just loop everything into one sort of segment here and meander. But Anthony Richardson is QB5 on the ESPN rankings, which actually is really surprising to me. I don't think I am not going to say that he's not going to be good, but he has not proven enough to be.
That's
QB5.
A little rich. It's a little rich.
So I see that, and I'm fading that in a big way. Again, I'm not saying, and nothing against Anthony Richardson, but there's guys that I'd rather have Kyler Murray, for example, or actually right around that same area is CJ.
Well, so I guess the one thought that just popped to mind is, I mean, if it's based on a 4-point per passing touchdown, that would naturally elevate Richardson or Murray or Jaden Daniels more in the rankings, because again, that rushing volume is then that much more important, because it doesn't get offset as much by the passing touchdowns that they're probably not throwing as much as the CJ Strouds or Jordan Loves or whoever.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I think that makes sense. I mean, everything we're going to see is everything we're going to see on rankings is based on the 4-point per touchdown. But yes, I still think it's too generous. I mean, there's so many other guys who are more proven than that. So it's just things like that. Like, I mean, even just taking a look, and I'm not going to claim that I'm some kind of like fantasy god or some kind of true, studied expert here. It's more just as I look through this 300 team or 300 player rankings, I'm just thinking to myself, there's just certain things on here that look like red flags to me. Just they don't pass the eye test.
Sure. So I mean, so who are you feeling? I mean, you called out Tua as somebody you're thinking about. Who else is on your radar
for quarterback?
Yeah,
or just okay. I mean, so later on down the way, well, I don't know. It kind of, I mean, it does depend on when I decide to take a quarterback. And actually, in this league that I drafted in yesterday, I ended up taking Dak. And I think I took him relatively late for Dak, but I still actually at the end of the draft was kind of kicking myself, because I think that there was still relatively okay value if I had waited another 3 or 4 rounds. So I'm seeing guys like Aaron Rodgers and Justin Herbert and Kirk Cousins, who are not going to really inspire too much confidence, but they're good passable guys with relatively high floors, I think. And they allow you to, the biggest advantage of them to me is not so much them, it's the fact that they are serviceable quarterbacks with relatively high floors, but they allow you to take more of these guys earlier on, these flex positions earlier on. Like, I can take a shot at a tight end or something like that a little bit earlier. I get more of these running back and wide receiver lottery tickets early on. And I don't want to call them lottery tickets in rounds 4 and 5. I mean, these are proven guys, but I don't know. I feel like waiting till the very end, even to the very, very end, is not even really a bad strategy, at least to me. I will throw out one more name too. Jordan Love is like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 or something like that. He's worth waiting for. And I never have gotten him yesterday because I was drafting in a league full of Packers fans. So he was probably gone in round 3. I'm joking, of course, but
I've seen the home leagues do some weird things. I've been in a home league with a bunch of Vikings fans, and I've seen Kirk Cousins go at the 101.
That is the dumbest thing I may have ever. It's almost dumber than that same Packers fan league drafting Mason Crosby in the top 5 rounds.
Yeah, I remember.
Don't do that. You don't draft a kicker.
Yeah, first of all, remove kickers.
I don't disagree.
And you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it.
I don't think I can disagree. But anyway, that's kind of how I'm probably on the other end of the extreme, where I'm saying, no, you don't want to reach for one of the top 3 quarterbacks, but I'm saying, no, you want to be the last or the second to last person in your league to take a quarterback. I'm on the opposite end of the extreme. And I broke that rule yesterday with Dak. I don't hate it. I just, when I look at my team and I look who else was available at that time, I kind of wish I would have taken a different player. I just got kind of, stage fright, I think, a little bit of like, oh no, I'm gonna lose out on the quarterbacks. You start to see the good guys go, and anyway. That's just kind of
I mean, I think especially in a 10 teamer though, you kind of need to beef up all your positions a little bit because everybody's team's going to be stacked. So if you play not to lose in a 10 teamer, there's no way in hell you're going to win. You know what I'm saying?
I don't disagree with that, but I have to be honest. Up in my personal home office, I have the trophy for that goddamn league. Let's go.
You heard it from the fantasy expert himself, Ryan Smith, champion of the I don't know what is a home league. What kind of league is that?
It's the family league.
The family league.
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm still riding that high.
You should be
riding the high from January. I changed my team's name to my son to reflect the name of my son who was born just like 2 weeks beforehand, and he won me the championship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was big time. I'm curious, like, how are you feeling about the tight end position this year? Do you have any kind of inklings on whether you'd want to reach for one of those guys, the Laportas or the Kelseys of the world, or are you waiting
Laporta
on
and Kelsey? No, everybody else. So that giant tier after that, though, I just want one of them. I can't make up my mind who it should be or I want it to be. So I am just going to let the draft come to me in terms of tight end. But I'm putting my foot down and I need one of them. I don't care who it is. If it's Mark Andrews, Kincaid, Pitts, McBride, Kittle, who am I missing in there? I think
Evan Ingram is up there too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm a little lower on him maybe than the other guys you just mentioned.
Sure.
Personally,
I mean, he's definitely a volume play, and that's pretty much it. But it's hard to ignore the targets that he gets, and then of course in the preseason he goes and puts up 2 touchdowns. I'm hoping people don't see that. It's going really under the radar because he could be a really nice late round tight end on the cheap that could win you some weeks. Yeah, I mean, if I get one of those guys, I'm happy. I can't. It's too tough for me to pick one.
Yeah,
that's where I'm landing.
No, I agree with that, and I mean, I think in the past it was like Kelsey, and then it was either you get Kelsey or you wait until the 10th round or something like that because it was that much of a drop off, and I just don't feel that like that same drop off this year. I feel like with those same first couple guys, or I'm sorry, with the same first like half dozen guys like we just mentioned. Those guys all have a pretty stupendous amount of value to me in those high floor type of plays. I actually, when I was going through that list of 300 people, and this is the one thing that I don't necessarily regret it. It's just the one really unfortunate thing that happened to me in yesterday's draft. I went through this list of 300 people and I saw Kincaid down there at tight end 7. And I thought, you know what? That's the guy I want. Kincaid. Mm-hmm. And he was going to fall to me at pick 59. And I was all excited about it. It was ready. I was locked and loaded. I had him in the queue on ESPN. He was selected at pick 58 by my mom.
Yikes.
I was hurt. Just can't come back from that.
On today's segment of On the Couch with Ren Smith.
Another football sadness. This time it wasn't about the Vikings.
Right.
Love my mom, but that one was a tough.
That one hurt.
That hurts. Tough one. Anyway, I took George Kittle with the next pick, so it ended up. I mean, it's fine. I think I'd rather have Kincaid though, but
yes. However, if Brandon Ayuk gets traded and another number 1 wide receiver does not come back to San Francisco, that Kittle pick is going to look genius.
Probably.
It's going to be glorious, sir. Oh yeah. Man.
At pick 59, I mean, we're talking like we're at the end of the 5th round here in a dynasty draft. So, or actually that's the end of the 6th round. So yeah, I mean, I'm still happy with it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on the get one of these first sort of 6'8" guys. You can't drop off after that because it gets really ugly really fast. But it doesn't have to be one or two. And I think people go for Kelsey. And now Kelsey has the extra sort of added Swifty thing going on that people might take him a little earlier than they want to, or than they ought to. So
the Taylor, I forgot that's going to be a thing again this year. Hopefully not. I guess we'll see. I don't know.
They'll be kissing on the 50-yard line in February again.
Yeah. Probably. I
don't know. The Chiefs could win 9 games this year, and I still wouldn't doubt them that they're going to win the Super Bowl.
I'm probably going to throw a little bit of money on it. The three-peat, you got to. We got to see it, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we got to see that. I need to be able to tell my son when he grows up, like, your son, I watched Patrick Mahomes from start to finish, bro. Like, I watched Tom Brady from start to finish. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. Do we want to talk running backs, receivers? Do we want to try and what are we thinking? How are you feeling?
Well, I think we kind of covered the running back, wide receiver. I mean, we could talk about we could I guess talk about some of the later rounds maybe. I think we beat the top 10 guys to death on that position already, but it's
not enough time in the night to talk about the middle rounds. That would
but I mean like a sleeper going in there or something like that.
Y'all know who to draft. Y'all will figure it out. This is Football Clowns Anonymous. You didn't come here for the top tier draft advice, bro. You came here for the obvious stuff, and you guys got it from there, right?
Yeah, of course. I do like I'll say like Austin Eckler. We talked about him a couple times in the different sort of preseason episodes we have.
You like Austin Eckler this year?
What's that?
You like him this year?
I think he's good value where he's at. He's like the 90th pick in.
I thought I was a little crazy for thinking that because I haven't heard anybody say that, and I was like, for where are you getting Austin, motherfucking Eckler, for way back there? Like, why would you not throw that on the bench? I thought I was crazy for even thinking that because I have heard nobody say that. I don't know if it's a good thing that we're agreeing with each other on this, but
I think it only
nice.
I think it only spells certain death for Eckler. I think I got the idea sort of from these conversations that we've had in these preseason episodes. It's not so much that I love Eckler. It's just that, I mean, at least on the ESPN sheet, he's for $3 is the estimated auction. Like,
right. That's what. Yeah. It's all. He's probably going to go for $1. Like I would imagine by the time people are picking players around where Eckler is going, in theory, nobody has a budget left except for, of course, the fantasy league winner who has $30 left by that point.
That's terrible. You had to bring that up again.
Yeah, disgusting.
It's an open wound still for me too. And I'm not the one. I took third, but I had to lose to you in the semis. That was
you did.
Equally devastating.
That felt really good because that team, that was a 7-6 team scraping and crawling, fighting its way into the playoffs. That, bro, my proudest achievement.
Yeah. Second
only to my son.
Right. I think it is interesting how you had those back-to-back seasons. The first one where both of them you liked the draft, and the first one you just got annihilated, and then the second one you pulled yourself. You were also getting annihilated, and then you pulled yourself out of the depths.
Lost Nick Chubb right off the bat. I think I had Kyron and James Cook, and I think I lost both of them off the bat. I had Deontay Johnson. He was supposed to be my nice little wide receiver 3. Nothing crazy, 1,000 yards in the 3 spot. Nothing crazy, and he got injured right off the bat. Oh, man. There was somebody. I had Kamara who was doing his suspension.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which in the back half of the year, which, I kind of figured he was a dog. And speaking of middle rounds, let's not sleep on Kamara. If he continues to get disrespected, I don't quite understand why. Yeah, that was a crazy season, man. But let's go ahead. Who you like late, man? What are some sleepers? What's your sleepers that you got in your back pocket? Some value that you see? Maybe overrated players to take it in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, so I mean, well, one of my big overrated players is not so much that I don't like him to be drafted, it's just where, and I already said it was Anthony Richardson. So that was one of the ones that I kind of had in my back pocket. Somebody that I think is one of those guys that may not even, or it kind of depends on the league format, that he may not even go, or at least he's going to be a very, very late pick. When I was reading through these preseason rankings and I'm gonna sound crazy, but Dalton Schultz is at the very, very, very back of these fantasy rankings. Like he's 170th or something like that. And I'm just thinking to myself, he's the number one tight end in Texas or for the Texans. And I just don't see how you wouldn't want, we talked about this with the Lions. You got to have a guy on your team from the Lions. That offense, if they look anything like they did last year, is just by simple virtue of him existing on that offense. I think he's could potentially emerge as being somebody who finishes better than that. He's not going to be a top 5 tight end this year, most likely. But I'm just saying, I think if you're looking for somebody to take a dart throw on at the very end, he's got the potential to kind of springboard himself to far better than he's being considered early in the season.
Sure. I think another tight end that's kind of lurking back there is a Jake Ferguson. He had a pretty good season last year, a lot of looks in the end zone. Dak has freshly signed CeeDee Lamb and, I guess Brandon Cooks, but who else? I mean, Michael Gallup got traded and then retired. Got, it's there's some targets up for grabs, and, he's not a bad tight end. So I like him a lot. And, we were talking about our hero running back strategy a little bit. I think Isaiah Pacheco could potentially slot in as your hero running back. He quietly, he was injured for a few games last year, but he was on pace for, I think, 250 carries and 50 receptions. Like that's a top 6 running back. He's getting and if he averages 4 yards a carry, like that's a top 6 running back. And I would think the Chiefs offense would be a little bit more efficient and productive this season. They seem like they were, figuring some stuff out last year. They got a similar formula to work with. I would imagine Pat Mahomes is going to have it a little bit more figured out this season, and Pacheco is going to benefit from that. I think if you want to cheap up a little bit on your hero running back and then spend up a little bit more on your 3 receivers, Pacheco is a great person to put in that slot and ride it from there. Kind of a sneaky play, I think. I like, maybe it's not, I don't know, but I like Pacheco.
No, I like that too. I actually had him flagged on my sheet as why is he being rated as the RB8 in the preseason. I just think that there's enough promise and high volume. And again, it's the Chiefs offense, right? And they have a wheel of wide receivers that can never seem to stay stable. And, Patrick Mahomes can sometimes be, and last year, sometimes he was running for his life. He's got to dump it off. There's Isaiah Pacheco. So, I like him as a play later, and you should potentially be able to get him for, like you said, a lot less money. He's in an auction draft a lot less than CMC, when I think he has the potential to put up CMC like numbers in any given week for sure, but even over the course of the season.
Hey, let's pump the brakes just a tad there. CMC like numbers, Isaiah Pacheco, is that what you just said?
Yes.
Come on, dog. Come on. We were having such a good conversation. People were probably just starting to believe us, buy into the nonsense that we were feeding them, and then you go and say that.
I had to make sure that everybody still remembers that we're clowns. You know what? I said it wouldn't surprise me. I didn't.
Hey, bro, mission accomplished. Yeah. Mission accomplished.
I'm just saying, in any given week, for sure, he could put up that kind of production in any given week. Now, over the course of the season, CMC is going to be better. But I'm just saying, for where you get him at that running back 8 position, I like him to be up there at the end of the season with that kind of production. I hope I'm wrong.
You heard it here first. CMC and Isaiah Pacheco, interchangeable.
That's what I said.
Crazy. Bro. That's a hot take. I didn't have a hot take section in here. I didn't realize that's what we were doing. I apologize. I didn't come prepared for the show like you did. Crazy.
I'm ready to give my hot takes whether you're ready for them or not.
Crazy.
I'm just saying he's a high volume player and he runs with violence, and that's a high powered offense, or at least it should be on paper. Just saying, if you've seen this man ever in the open field with the football, you'll know what I'm talking about. He just runs with it. He runs like he's angry.
He's got a certain flair to his run for sure.
He does. He does.
Yeah, it's great.
We'll see. All I'm saying is I agree with you from the standpoint of he's a good value for where he's at, and
Sure.
he's got that potential to be much. He's got the potential to be better than RB8 by the end of the season. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah. I think another running back that is not, he's not too far down there, but I think going at a value is James Cook. I think the worry is Josh Allen is going to vulture all the touchdowns at the goal line, blah, blah, blah. But he was productive without that already. So, I mean, I believe he had 4 rushing touchdowns last year. If that's the floor, and he finished as RB top 12, I believe, or he was on pace to if he didn't, why is he so far down draft boards? What's the concern there? I'm a little confused with that situation there.
Yeah, great value with James Cook. I think again, it's another high-powered offense with the Bills. A high volume type running back is going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. So I like him to finish better than he's listed.
Absolutely, and sticking with the Bills, I mean, Khalil Shakir. What are we talking about, bro? Why is he he's free in drafts, which is absolutely ridiculous. That makes no sense. And I'm a little sick that I plan on keeping that one to myself because I got the drafts coming up. But that one disgusts me. Like that's disrespect. Like that's crazy. Like we're forecasting Josh Allen to have 1,000 yards, and Shakir, the only receiver he's throwing the football to that's on that squad, is not being respected. Like he's free. Come on, man.
Yeah. Is there a wide receiver? I mean, obviously Kincaid, but is there a wide receiver on the Bills that's costs any money?
I don't know what Curtis Samuel is going for, but that would be
Keon Coleman
or Coleman. Yeah.
Well, he's probably free too because he's a rookie. He might not end up being.
Yeah, I mean he's getting some hype in camp a little bit. I think a little raw, I guess, but he's I guess putting together a couple of reels here and there.
Yeah, I have a guy here who I'm a little nervous about actually taking where he's at because it's Nico Collins and he's wide receiver 15, and there is so much energy on. You're making a really interesting reaction. I can't tell if you agree or disagree with me. I need to know.
Bro, I've been thinking about Nico Collins all day because I'm going back to bring a full circle. I've been thinking about team construction and what do I want my team to look like, and the Texans are another team. Like do you got to leave with one of those players on your team? I think so. Which of the and your mind immediately gravitates towards those receivers, and which one do you want? Why not Nico?
No, well, I'm not going to say not Nico, but I'm going to say that I think that the other two are just as likely to be the wide receiver one or put up the wide receiver one sort of status in Houston. And so I don't know that I would reach for myself personally. I don't know that I would go for Nico at his position when I know I could get Diggs or Dell. I just don't think that he is significantly better, I guess, than either one of them, or that he has a significantly higher likelihood of emerging as the clear number one wide receiver. I could be wrong. I think that Diggs has FU energy leaving Buffalo and wants to prove himself again. He did the same thing when he left Minnesota and went to Buffalo. He was absolutely, and he's nothing if not a hothead. He is going to want to prove that he's still, that guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a way to emerge as a top contender. Anyway, I guess I'm just saying that I think you want to use the word interchangeable. I think those three guys are kind of interchangeable.
And I agree. So I guess my argument is I just think the dart throw is worth it, regardless of which of the three you pick, because they're all similarly ish priced. So I think it's just kind of a matter of where your dart throw is going. And I thought you were saying that your dart was going to land on Nico, because that's where I was kind of coming to. But it sounds like you're on the Diggs train.
Diggs, or I'm fine with Tank Dell too, to be honest with you. I think, like you said, you want to leave with one of those guys on your team. But I think that if you get the chance to pick Nico, I'm picking somebody else because I know that Diggs and Dell are going to be there when it comes around to me at the next opportunity. I just, again, I think they're all worth this. To me, they're all worth the same thing, but they're not being valued as the same thing. And that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Sure. Yeah,
It's a slight overrated in a weird way, because I don't, that Texans offense is not overrated at all.
Yeah, and I mean I see your, so I'm looking at the rankings now, and I see Nico Collins at 26 and Kyrie Williams at 27. That's, and Pacheco at 32. Yeah, so I mean I see, I can get on board with that logic.
Your list is very different than mine, but if those are the guys there at that time, then for sure I'm feeling what I just said.
Yeah, so Fantasy Pros, what they do is they pull all the air quotes experts, and they do a consensus ranking of all the I believe the industry experts rankings, and kind of throw together some list in that fashion. So I think that's kind of always been what I gravitate towards when I look at stuff.
Sure, as opposed to just a couple of clowns at ESPN like us. We could work for ESPN.
We probably could. Might have some openings. I don't know. Then what's going on with RG3? What's his situation?
Oh, I see. Oh, for a second I was thinking, never mind. Yeah, it's like, he's retired, right?
Come on, dog. Come on, man.
I know.
Man.
I know. I gotcha. Yeah, I've got one other sleeper too, or it's not really a sleeper, but somebody that I really was excited about leaving with at the draft that I did end up getting in this draft yesterday, and we'll see about the other ones, is Ty Chandler. Because Aaron Jones has a history of being injured, and Ty Chandler has looked again, you're getting this guy way at the end of the draft. Aaron Jones has a history of being injured, and Ty Chandler has shown promise and flashes in recent years, and as a backup for Madison last year, especially. So I like having him as a kind of stash on your bench and
sure,
kind of see what happens. And Blake Corum is down there too in the same area. So maybe you were going to just say that.
Yes, sir. I was going to say I hear and respect the Ty Chandler, and I will raise you a Blake Corum or Tyler Algier, perhaps. Guys that, well, Blake Corum, I think the upside is probably a little higher, and then Tyler Algier is just we've seen what he can be if he needs to step up. I think the dart throw there is well worth, or the bench spot is well worth it for an Algier. But general philosophy, I 100% agree.
Yeah, no, I like those as counters too. It's valuable to have those guys on your team. And like I said, I think even if you have one of those top guys on your team, that maybe gives you even a little more motivation just in case too. Because that those guys, and if you have Bijan on your team, grabbing Algier is even more valuable probably.
Right. And that maybe to bring it back up to our hero running back thing, that gives me we talked about this in the group chat. It gives me a little bit of pause with Bijan that Algier is not a scrub. You know what I mean? Like how much of playing time, we've heard one thing, we've heard the he's going to be in the CMC role and all this other nonsense, but the only thing we've seen up to this point is a split backfield between him and Algier. And if you draft him in that 3 or 4 spot or wherever, 5, 6 in that first round, you're going to be sick if he's doing 50-50 with Algier, 60-40. So that's what kind of gives me pause with Bijan a little bit.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, it's a great team, but we'll see. I think we put the Falcons under 9.5 wins. So it's a good team on paper, but Bijan is a great player, and that's the thing you have to be more worried about, I think, is the share getting kind of a little bit more towards the backup here than maybe you want it to be.
Right.
And I don't know if it'll be the case with Ty Chandler, just to be clear, but I just know Aaron Jones is made of glass, just like Dalvin Cook was. The backup's getting at least a game, if not.
Yeah. But is it a game is it an offense that you want a game of with the backup running back?
Let me see Sam Darnold first before I answer your question, but I'm going to go ahead and guess actually probably no. So maybe I should just walk back everything I just said.
I'm just asking questions.
The offense is good though. I mean, like if you think like, the rest of the offense is should be pretty good this year. I just don't know that the defense is going to get off the field. I don't know.
Right.
We'll see.
I mean, it's the NFL, man. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yep. Big time.
But
Vikings under 6.5 wins.
it's not looking like a horrible bet. I'm sorry.
I know
you're used to it. This is just par for the course for you, but
I just think it's a big regression year. We'll dig ourselves back out. JJ McCarthy will lead us to the promised land.
You're just getting another number one pick to pair with your future star quarterback. You're just building a nice foundation for that, a nice young team to build around. To go on a nice long Super Bowl run.
I hate this about the Vikings. They don't know how to suck properly. They will still win 6 games.
Over 6.5.
Well, so I mean, I could see them in the realm of 5, 6, 7 wins. Yes, I still like the under, but I'm just saying that they're not going to be that 2-win team, because why would we do that when we could get a top draft pick? Nah, we don't do that. Anyway, this isn't about the Vikings.
Yeah,
so
run on the couch. Run on the couch.
Always.
Well, with that, sir, any key point, any takeaways you want folks to take with them to their drafts? What are some memorable lessons that we've come away with here in our wide-ranging and highly in-depth conversation of how to succeed at your draft?
I would say this is just me. Don't take a quarterback right away. There's lots of value in quarterbacks late, but do take a tight end in the first 5 or 6 guys, because the drop off after that is pretty significant. And if you, honestly, I think one thing we've come to a kind of a consensus about is probably get a running back relatively early.
Get a running back early.
Get a running back. Yeah. Because
get a running back early and then go from there. Let the draft come to you, I think.
Yeah. The zero RB strategy, I don't think is going to be good this year, considering who's on the table for the top echelon of running backs. So yeah, that's kind of where I would go as a take.
I think hero RB is the way to go myself. I tend to agree, but what the fuck do we know? We'll see. We're going to see how it shakes out. We pontificate, and you've seen how all the teams that I am just thrilled with going roster bait off, in the corner with some candles lit and looking at my team, and then the shit just falls apart immediately. Like, you've seen how it goes. It's a tale as old as time, and we get so fucking excited for these drafts. And I'm so excited to play my boy Ren and Aaron and in my boy Rodney's league, and I'm excited for the competition. This is my year. This is my year, Ren.
And then it all comes undone. It's
heartbreaking
amazing.
Devastation.
Fantasy giveth and fantasy taketh away.
Oh man.
That is one death, taxes, and fantasy football sadness.
And with that, we'll sign off. Go like, comment, subscribe, Spotify, YouTube, Football Clowns Anonymous. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.
Thanks, Kurtis. Take care. See ya.